It's got to connect. Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another interview from the Wellbeing Within Lockdown interview series. Joining me today is the lovely Erena Oliver, who is an integrative wellbeing and relationship coach. And she's here to talk to us today about family stress, how to overcome differing concerns and create more harmony at home. Welcome, Erena.
Thank you, Nat. It's a real pleasure to be with you and to be sharing this platform.
Likewise.
I just love having conversations with you.
Likewise.
Never knowing where they go.
Erena and I have been working together for a couple of years now, so we've got a little bit of history in terms of shared conversations and familiarity with each other, don't we, at this point?
And fun, lots of fun.
Yes, fun and lots of laughs. Beautiful. So did you want to, let's jump into, did you want to tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you do, who you help, etc.?
It might be helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
I specialise in autoimmune dysfunction and dysfunctional and toxic patterns in relationships. So my passion is to help others to create vibrant health, enriched and co-creative relationships and communities. I've been working in the wellness industry for at least the past 18 years after leaving a nursing career. And the things that I've discovered is that connection, communication, and our emotional intelligence form the foundation of the work that I do and our well-being. And from this, we create strong, harmonious, healthy, and enriched relationships, both within our body, with others, and in our life.
Beautiful. Excellent. Now, did you want to tell me a little bit more about your story as well and what led you into this specific kind of work?
I suppose I could.
Totally up to you.
And it's probably very helpful too. I was abused between the age of 3 and 5, and that set up a whole lot of belief systems and tendencies for depression. I understand I have tendencies for bipolar and manic depression. So I had a lot of challenges growing up and married a very wonderful man, but because of the dysfunction and dysfunctional patterns in my own life, we ended up having a very toxic and dysfunctional relationship. And we've been married for 29 years. 24 years of those were fraught with verbal and emotional abuse, and it was a living hell. I felt like I was an ice block living in an ice cave most of the time. I experienced a lot of allergy problems, IBS, fibromyalgia, and ended up with symptoms of MS. But as a result of me seeking help and working on myself for those conditions and desperately trying to work on my relationship with myself and my husband, I've not only become symptom-free from all those autoimmune conditions, but I have the most juicy, delicious relationship with my husband that I never imagined possible. And what's even more special is that he has given me permission to share our story wherever I feel the need to, because he values the connection, the love, and the partnership that we have got now, and he wants that for others. And he believes that it's possible. So I've got a great lot of respect for him, even though our life was hell for so long.
Yes. I just, I have so much love for you hearing about your journey, because I've been with you for part of that journey, and it's been beautiful to watch you transform through that.
Well, I wasn't in a nice place when you first met me.
And this is part of like, this is the testimony, like sort of, because I can see the payoff of all the hard work as well. So it's beautiful that you're in a place where he also, because I'm sure that some people watching this may be a bit like, oh, I wonder how he's feeling within this. And it's beautiful also that, you know, we can share that he's completely on board.
Yeah, I actually asked,
well.
I asked his permission. I says, knowing what we've got now and where we were, and that I have got the potential to help people, I know what's possible. Do I have your permission to share our story?
Yeah.
Because particularly in our own little environment, our community here, it could be really challenging when people find out just how dysfunctional and toxic our relationship was. But he's got no shame, and I think that is mainly because of the way that I've handled the whole situation, and I don't have any blame towards him, or I'm not pointing the finger, so it just was.
Just beautiful to see where you are, and very relevant right now, because a lot of the people that we know are in Australia. There's parts of Australia where legislation has just changed right now, to not want to get too sidetracked, but all of a sudden that's become a big thing in Victoria, where there was some legislation passed where they're trying to rein in and trying to create more safety around like the shares that go on around this stuff. So it's beautiful to have an example of how we can navigate this consciously and come to that beautiful place of permission and where you are now. Thank you for being here to share today. So we were going to talk a little bit more also about the managing the personal stress side today, right? From your personal experience and your professional experience, as you brought them together, you've become quite handy at helping people to navigate their own stress and as it relates within all of that. So as we started talking about this today, there was a particular scenario that sort of came up in your mind that you wanted to talk us through. So can you tell us a little bit more about the scenario, and then we'll jump into some of the more specifics around how to deal with the stress side of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
You imagine a husband and wife with their children arriving home quite late at night in the middle of the week, and the kids have to get up for school in the morning. Dad is just going with the flow most of the time, and yet mum is frazzled and stressed to the max because she knows that she's going to be facing cranky kids in the morning. She knows that she hasn't got the sleep that she needs and will potentially also be cranky. Yeah. And her crankiness, the kids' crankiness, and Dad's, oh well, it is what it is, can create a lot of conflict.
So in terms of the flow on, like what kind of flow on as that stress accumulates? Like how does that flow on kind of look?
Well, mum gets, and I'm talking from my own personal experience here because I've been there and done that. You get wound up, you think that he doesn't care, you think that he's not interested, you know that he's going to go off to work and not come home until after work tomorrow, and you've got it all. You just feel like you're coping with it all on your own so often. And you take it personally. And when you take it personally, the conflict rises, you get more short, and you end up in a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So.
And then you're coming from the, I imagine, then in that place, then you're coming a little bit more from the what's wrong aspect and constantly seeing what's wrong, and then kind of a little bit of
and it's all his fault and he doesn't care, and yep, there's a lot of blame and shame and judgment and criticism that goes on.
Which kind of takes you then away from a conversation around, so what is it that you really both need right now? What is it you really both want? And what's the vision of how that you want things to look instead?
Yeah.
Can be a bit distracting from that.
Yep. And even in having a conversation, neither of you are in the frame of mind where you can actually speak clearly without feeling judged and criticised. So you're going to be like walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
And feeling judged even in that. So you're not even able to see the bigger picture or see that, you know, he actually is supporting you the best that he can.
Totally. And I imagine, like, I was just thinking as we were talking about that, I was thinking back to a conversation with one of my ex-partners who's still a friend today. And I remember one time just talking about the complexity, I think sometimes for men of, because there's so much, like, I think we can forget sometimes that men are trying to do their best and they want what's best for us, and they really want to please us. Yeah. They want to love us.
They want to cherish us.
Yes.
Yeah, they
totally.
want to cherish us.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we can forget that we're trying. And I think, like he said, that it can be disheartening sometimes when you feel a bit like you're trying to do your best, but it's like she already doesn't trust you before you've even begun sometimes, or it's just like sometimes they start to feel a bit like, does it even matter what I'm doing? Because if you're just going to see me that way anyway, and then that becomes self-defeating, because then it becomes a bit like, well, what's the point? Like, if it doesn't matter anyway, and then that's part of what maintains the cycle from their side. I'm not wanting to overly generalize for everyone, but just as adding, you know, another little thought in there.
Well, I actually had a conversation with a client this morning. She was saying how she really gets so annoyed every time that they go out or go somewhere, and she gets told, you choose what restaurant we go to, you choose. And she's always having to choose. What's actually underneath that is that we actually don't mind choosing, but as women, we choose the things that we think are going to please our man, and end up denying ourselves, and all they want is for us to be happy. So we're putting their needs first and not choosing for us, and we're becoming resentful, and then that's creating a vicious circle.
Because you become resentful because you're not saying what you really want, and so you're not getting what you really want because you're not communicating what it is that you really want and need, right?
Yeah. So conflict.
Tricky. So then ultimately both of us on both sides have to kind of get good at that kind of fine art of putting ourselves on the table and being like, okay, so I really want to know what's going on with you, really want to know how I can love you better, but also after that, you know, what can we have a bit of a chat about what I need, and I'm feeling like I need this right now, and how do you know? I was going to ask you though, how do you think all of this is exacerbated? What's changed with the recent pressure of lockdown within the world?
You know, there's two sides of a story here. One is families are actually getting to know each other better.
Yep.
Because they're spending time together, and that can be really, really good. However, when there has been conflict or a little bit of resentment or just not that level of comfort, it can actually create more stress because we can't get away from the behaviours of others. It might not necessarily be them as a person, but it's their behaviours that really get up our nose.
That's a really important distinction to make too, right? It's not you that I'm attacking right now as a human, because how often do we hear criticism or critique and think they've just said, I'm unlovable, I can't love you as a person, when that's an important distinction to make. It's the patterns, it's your behavior, it's not you.
And that, so and as a result of this, frustrations rise. We've seen a rise in domestic violence. We've seen a really sad rise in people feeling so hopeless and helpless, more than ever, that they feel that they've got no one to turn to, nowhere to go, and they actually end up taking their own lives. And they don't understand that there are some people out there who are willing to listen and who do understand. And that, so there's all those factors. And I think that whole isolation thing is being exacerbated as well. I think people have been feeling isolated enough, in their relationships because they haven't felt heard, they haven't felt seen, they don't feel that they matter. And you put them into isolation, even if they are in isolation with families, if they're not feeling felt, heard or seen, that isolation is, like rubbing salt into an open wound.
And as it relates to stress and our personal sense of safety in the world, like our family is kind of one of the things that we hope, or we might have aspired to, or we were taught our whole life is supposed to be, the safe thing, right?
Yep.
So if anything's going to cause stress or anywhere it's going to exacerbate, like it's going to be when your family structure and system.
Yeah, it is huge. And one of the things when we went into lockdown way back there in March, I got really excited because of all the children that were going to be having both their parents at home and spending time with them. And then in the next moment, I went into the depths of despair because I realised that there's actually so many children that the only safe place that they have to be is actually at school.
At school.
And this is not a judgment on any parent whatsoever. This is basically saying that actually, if they knew better, if they knew another way, they would be doing it, because it's not in us by nature to disrespect or hurt or harm
other human beings. Yeah,
it's not in our nature, and yet the way that we've been brought up, some of us actually don't know that there is another way, and if we do know there's another way, we don't believe that it's possible for us. And we don't believe that there's anybody out there that will take enough interest in us that we're worthy enough of actually making those changes. And that is stress in itself. Just that whole, I don't matter, I'm not worthy, is a stress-creating situation in our bodies and keeps us in fight-flight.
Absolutely. So what perspective shifts and what changes, because I'm hearing a lot of mindset, I'm hearing a lot of beliefs that aren't necessarily in a lot of stories that we're telling ourselves up here that aren't necessarily serving us in that respect, in those scenarios. So what kind of perspective shifts do you think are needed there?
Don't take things personally. And that's a challenging one, especially when you've been living in fight-flight, when you've been feeling unsafe in yourself and in your environment. It's very, very challenging to change that. It is possible because, hey, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Likewise.
Understanding the diversity of each other, and that each person is so totally unique, and they're going to have different points of view and opinions and that sort of thing, but it's being able to have the acceptance for that.
Yes.
And our health and our well-being depend on having a healthy immune system. So this is another perspective shift that we need to have, that we actually have control over our well-being. And to have a healthy immune system, we need good nutrition, fresh air, exercise, even if it's just a walk around the block.
Yeah.
And we need to connect with nature.
Yep.
And just remembering that our food is our medicine or our poison, depending on what we're choosing to eat.
What you take in.
Yeah. And the other thing, perspective shift that we actually need is connection. And I think this is the challenging thing that the whole lockdown has tried to create in our communities, is separation and to disconnect us. And yet we so desperately need connection. We need to connect with each other, and we need to connect with nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Because there's a lot of things that are also adding to that right now, right? Like, I mean, social media in general, and a lot of the dynamics, and that's a whole other side topic in itself, that let's just not dive down that rabbit hole today. But I know both of you and I have strong feelings about about where that's gone, and the fact that, we've both, I think, been sitting here for at least a decade going, this is going to be bad at some point. This is going to have big consequences for relationships at some point. Especially for young people who are growing up relating in what Stillman and Stillman called the fidgetal reality, where relationships for them starts in here.
Yeah. Well,
it starts on that.
Yeah. A good example I had the other day, local lady saw my car door magnet and says, I hope you don't think I'm being rude, but I just would like to ask you a question. They have a 15-year-old who's being bullied at school, is into gaming. So his communication and connection is all online. So he's not able to relate properly with the family, and it's creating a lot of conflict in the family. And she's really desperate to try to help him so that he can be a fully functional teenager and a happy teenager rather than a disconnected one.
Yeah. There's a lot of on their side. There's a lot of anxiety too, right?
There is uncertainty, huge
uncertainty about the world. It gives you a dopamine addiction. This is like gambling. It's designed to, social media, the way they hook you with games and everything, it's designed to be the most addictive form of presenting data to you, which hooks you in and gives you those little hits of dopamine. So they've got that internal stress of dealing with an addiction to the device, plus then the insecurity of when I'm using this for my sense of personal fulfillment. And it's just, you're thinking in this land. And I'm even noticing, like, having taken a break after I had my surgery recently, like, you get so dependent upon this just being your thoughts that then when you turn it off and then you're like, well, what am I going to do right now live in this moment? And then bring that to a family scenario and a relating scenario where now you've got people in front of you in a social context, or you have live people, and you're like, well, what am I meant to do now? How do I do this? And there's that huge anxiety within that as well. So that's adding another aspect, right?
And another level too, especially for teenagers, we don't know who the heck we are when we're a teenager. Our hormones are changing and our bodies are changing so fast that we have no idea of who we are. And yet we've got all these expectations from school, from home, from peers to be something, and usually it's some unrealistic expectation.
And or know what your ambition is and know what direction, so we can start planning from year 7 or earlier now, like what career direction we're going to push you in, or what subjects we're going to push you in.
It's just complete overwhelm for them, and they have no idea. And I think this is where so much depression comes from, is because we lose our connection with ourselves. And then if we've never found it, how the heck can we have a good relationship with ourselves for a start, but with somebody else? So is it any wonder that relationships end up on the rocks? Because of the stress of the expectations of society and other people and ourselves on ourselves.
So bringing it back to the practices we can use to help deal with all of this, because they relate to, some of the ones that you just talked about in terms of nutrition management, spending time in nature, breathing exercises, all of these things. These can be just as relevant for the teenager, for your younger children, for the parents in the family, and for everyone, right?
Yes, exactly.
So are there any other simple tools, practices, etc., that you would add?
Talking can be one, and I know it can be really challenging. I had a lady yesterday who's been wanting to come and see me, but she hasn't booked in because she feels that if she comes to see me, she's going to cry the whole time that she's here. Now I got excited because it's like, yes, she needs to get that out of the system because those emotions have built up. But people feel so much shame. So find somebody safe. Find somebody that you can be comfortable with, that can hold space for you to rant and rave and bawl and yell and scream, do whatever you need to do.
And it's not going to judge you.
No, that's just going to be there
lovingly.
You're okay.
And help you navigate your process, right?
Exactly. So once I've got that out of your system, it's like, okay, so what is it that you really want? And how can I help you get there? Go for a walk every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes around the block.
Yep.
Start increasing it, but just get out and do something. And walking is something that's actually quite rhythmic and meditative.
Yep.
Drink plenty of water, so hydrate well. And there's lots of videos on YouTube of the cortices technique, and that's a brain balance technique from the Body Talk system.
Mm-hmm.
That you can do for yourself. So cortices is spelled C-O-R-T-I-C-E-S. So Google, YouTube that, and there's a technique that will help the brain body to reconnect.
Beautiful. It might be worth us also putting a link to that in the comments under this video too, right? Yep. Beautiful. Okay, so in terms of this work, there is a workshop that you're offering at the moment, right? And you want to tell me a little bit more about the support that you're offering in terms of holding that space or helping people to manage their stress and go through that personal journey we were just highlighting.
Yeah. So to really understand what stress is, because what's happened in our society today, so many people, stress is the normal, and they don't actually realise that that is the condition that's happening. And when we're in stress, our thinking brain's switched off, our digestive system and our immune systems are switched off. So we're reacting and we're not healthy.
Yep.
So to start the journey, we need to have some sort of understanding of what stress looks like and what it's doing for our body.
Yep.
So in this workshop, I'm sharing some deeper insights into that. I'm going to tell a couple of stories, and I'm going to take you through the brain balance technique. But also at the end of the workshop, I'm going to do a session, a group session for everybody who's on that workshop, to see what, as a collective, needs to be shifted so that we can be experiencing more joy, more harmony, more calmness in our life.
Who doesn't want a bit more of that, huh?
Every day.
Indeed. Because I think so much of the conversation, I mean, I was just watching one of Kelly McGonigal's TED Talk from 3 years ago, I think it was, on talking about making stress your friend and the sickness industry perspective of, stress is going to harm you and wreck your world and kill you. But the wellness, there's a whole different perspective the wellness has on it, right?
Yep.
In terms of everything you're just talking about, in terms of the things that we do, which take us in the direction of wellness.
Yep. Well, I know that the whole autoimmune stuff, my relationship stuff, that was so dysfunctional and toxic. You've frozen. I don't know whether I'm still talking.
There you are.
Yep. That was so dysfunctional and toxic. And my health conditions had got so bad. I know that underneath that was stress. It was stress that created that. Now there's absolutely no way I'm going back to that sort of life. This is too much fun.
I know, right? This is cool on the other side of the fence. And Lord knows the importance of just giving your body the building blocks of what it needs, right?
Absolutely,
to do what it needs to do what it needs to do all its beautiful little biochemical processes.
Do what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
Our body's a self-healing mechanism.
Yes.
And it's stress that stops our body healing.
So tell me, this workshop's called Stressless Adventure. It's on the 29th of September, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And we will, did you want to tell us a little bit more about, so there's that, and then that leads into what?
So I'm open to the possibility of taking some people into a group.
Yep.
And doing some group work for 6 weeks. And there's huge power and value in group work. We all learn and support and feed off each other, and it's a community, it's connection, and that there are also the options to work with me one-on-one. And that's so, yep, I'm just open to whatever unfolds. And I can do both. I can do both the one-on-one as well as take people into a group.
Beautiful.
Situation and have lots of fun.
That's so important. And I love that part of you that has that beautiful ability to, you know, help make it light, right? Because this is not exactly easy subject matter for a lot of this. So
it's not, and I think
it's a gift you have.
Yeah, I feel I get judged a lot making abuse and bullying and dysfunctional toxic relation patterns and that sort of thing, bringing the light to it. But it's like, it just is. Let's transform it, and it doesn't need to be heavy and dense and dark and traumatic. We can change it.
Perspective shift.
Yep.
Yep. And it's all human in the end, isn't it? Is it good and evil? I mean, we can get very lost when we start talking about the philosophical side of the good and the evil and the bad and who's right and wrong within all of that. But tell me, is it?
It's just perception
and learning.
Yep. I mean, my husband didn't know any different. He didn't know any other way to behave. I didn't know any other way to behave.
Yeah.
Once we learned that there was another way of doing it and took that action towards that, our life is transformed. And in some ways, it's actually just as simple as that.
Being ready, having the tools, having the support and the insight from beautiful people like you who I just so appreciate the depth of your insight into all of this stuff. I mean, that's a crucial part of transcending through it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And coming to that place where we can reach our highest potential in family and relationships and life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Beautiful. So is there anything else that you wanted to add in closing?
No, I don't think so. Or perhaps don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
If you're feeling stressed, if you know that you're reacting and you're flying off the handle at your wife, your husband, your partner, your kids, your workmates, whoever, don't beat yourself up. That's the first and foremost part. And if you have got a desire to learn another way of doing it, another way of dealing with your stress, another way of handling situations and people who get up your nose, then come and have a conversation.
For sure.
Because that's one of the biggest things that I learned in my journey through bullying and abuse is judgment, blame, shame, and criticism kill us and our relationships. So when we're judging, blaming, shaming, criticizing ourselves, we're doing it to others, we're doing it to others, we're doing it to ourselves, and that needs to stop. Yeah. So when you come and play with me, whether it be in a group situation or one-on-one, it's a no judgment, no blame, no shame, no criticism zone.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So we'll put the links underneath this video for you to connect in with that workshop, and also we'll put Erena's social links and give you a means of being able to get in touch with her there as well. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Oh, thanks so much for being here. I always love, just adore spending time with you. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in and watched through all of this today.
Absolutely. And if you've got any questions or queries, please ask them, because if you don't ask, you're not going to discover. Indeed.
Wow. Well said. On that note, we might bring it to a close for today. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need, and
we'll see you on the other side.
Beautiful. Lots of love. And chat soon.